So what exactly happened to Serie A? What led to the league's downfall, and are we finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel? Now, for me, this downfall can be placed in three folders: finances, style of play, and the scandals. Oh, the scandals, including a bizarre locker room incident where a player essentially drugged his own teammates. And we'll look at how lowering Serie A from 20 teams to 18 teams might be the answer. Once upon a time, during the 80s and 90s, football didn't get much better than Serie A. The Italian team boasted the best teams, high-profile players, and record transfers. Over the years, the league went through a sharp decline, so their TV revenues fell, stadiums deteriorated, lowering the quality of Italian football. Now, some suggest Serie A should not be pitied, as most of the league's issues are really of their own creation. As one article by Forbes put it, Serie A turned into a league where average players play for below-average teams in crumbling concrete monasteries. So why did this decline take place? This is Parma's squad from 1998-99. You'll see some familiar faces in there. There's Buffon, Cannavaro, Crespo. We're talking about players that went on to lift the Ballon d'Or. This Parma side won the UEFA Cup, the Coppa Italia, finished 4th in the league. A few seasons before that, Juventus won the Champions League. A few seasons after that, Milan won the Champions League. That was the Italian dominance on the European scale. But what happened to Parma? A drop in player form? Coaching issues? Not really. Parma's successes of the 90s were not interrupted by poor football, but by one of Italy's biggest financial scandals involving Italian dairy and food corporation Parmalat. Parmalat went bankrupt after accruing billions in debt, which they fraudulently hid from their shareholders, leading to the collapse of the company and eventually Parma Football Club, a company that was more busy cooking their books than the food they sold. Since then, Parma has seen multiple relegations, sending them all the way to Serie D. If you look at Parma's Wikipedia page, you see the word rebirth more than you probably see it in the Bible. That's how long-lasting the demise of Parma in 2004 was. Then there was Ultima Scommessa, Operation Last Bet, a major betting scandal in 2011, a scandal that was discovered while authorities investigated another bizarre controversy. An accusation that a Cremonese player, Marco Palloni, poisoned the drinks of his own teammates with an anti-anxiety drug in an attempt to impact their performance in order to assist a betting syndicate, an accusation that Palloni denied. The drugging incident eventually led authorities to the betting syndicate. The scandal's most high-profile ban was probably levied on decorated coach Antonio Conte, who was banned from coaching for 4 months only for him to be acquitted of all charges by a court in 2016. And nestled comfortably between these two scandals is the 800-pound gorilla, Calciopoli, a topic that probably deserves an episode in itself. A scandal in which police found 6 teams to have rigged matches by choosing favorable referees. Juventus were stripped of 2 Serie A titles, relegated to Serie B, while Milan, Lazio, Fiorentina, and Regina were fined and had points deducted. Calciopoli was arguably the biggest scandal not just to hit Italy, but the sport of football. Keep in mind, the impact of these controversies was enough that Italy lost all hope of hosting any European or World Cup competitions. These lost bids eventually meant lack of development of stadiums, training facilities, and overall infrastructure, effects for which were noticed throughout the past decade and a half. Just recently, Juventus's entire board of directors, including President Andrea Agnelli, who led the club for a decade, resigned due to ongoing investigations into the club's accounting. And finally, there are issues of crowd trouble, incidents of racism, like the one against Kevin Prince Boateng. These are isolated incidents and not a representation of the league in general. I mean, we saw what happened with multiple English players after the Euro Cup final in 2021. However, to a neutral fan sitting on the fence to pick a football league to watch, these incidents can be a certain deterrent. Now, even though Andrew Tate says money isn't the problem, your brain is the problem, in Serie A's case, money's the problem. A major factor to the success of the Premier League has been their openness to foreign investment. Serie A teams have missed the boat on new rich ownership from Russian oligarchs in the Premier League and oil-rich owners that chose to invest in teams like Chelsea, Manchester City, PSG, and Newcastle United. At the core of it, Italian businesses just weren't investing into Serie A the way English businesses were investing in the Premier League. La Liga's rise was also assisted by the country's tax systems, which allowed teams to spend spend more and offer better salaries. Increased investment led to better quality setups and stadiums in these leagues, leading to even higher revenue. A 2021 analysis showed Serie A had built only 3 new stadiums in the previous 10 years, compared to 153 new stadiums built across Europe. And many of these stadiums in Italy are built before the Second World War. Here's an image of the seats at Bologna's Stadio dell'Ara. This was Stadio dell'Ara before renovation, and this is how it looks after work was done in 2015. It is obvious which stadium is more inviting to the fans. The reality is poor stadium facilities force the fans to stay at home and watch the matches on TV, significantly impacting the revenue of the clubs. The average attendance for a Serie A game this season has been less than 30,000. And here's the craziest part of it all. Most Serie A teams don't even own their stadiums. They're essentially renting it from the local government, and that is a huge loss of revenue. Lack of business investment, poor stadium quality, unfavorable taxation place Serie A in a financial hole that forced teams to start selling players to generate some income. In 2009, Milan and Inter both sold their biggest stars in Kaká and Ibrahimovic. Milan's CEO at the time, Adriano Galliani, openly expressed that Milan's finances were in the red and a sale of Kaká would allow them to balance their books. Departure of quality players naturally impacted the quality of the league. Going back to the Forbes statement, average players playing for below-average teams in crumbling concrete monasteries built decades ago. Now, reputationally, Serie A is a defensive league, which to me in 2023 is just false. Does it match the tempo of the Premier League? No. But that to me is not about defensive, it's more about a technique-driven gameplay. To all neutrals getting into football, technicality is second or third to goals and high tempo. Now, one of the keys to a starter pack for an AC Milan match is a snack, a drink, and a blood pressure machine, because it never stops stressing us out, and some would say that that's exciting. And if you look at something a little bit more tangible, you'll see the total goals scored over the last 3 seasons amongst the top 5 leagues in Europe. Serie A clearly leads the way in all seasons. So clearly the league doesn't lack goals. Now, Fabio Capello's criticism of Serie A is fairly accurate. He claimed Italian sides play too slow, lack intensity, and too often games in the league are broken up by referees. A constant stop-start in the game is frustrating to the neutrals. And the biggest stage where Serie A can showcase its quality is the Champions League, and that's kind of where things fall apart. So from 1985 to 2010, Serie A sides won 8 Champions League titles. 15 Italian sides made the tournament final in 25 years, including 7 consecutive finals in the mid-90s. In contrast, since 2015, Serie A sides have struggled to qualify for the quarterfinals of both the Champions League and the Europa League. In this graphic, we can clearly see Italy has 9 qualifications compared to 23 from Spain and 21 from the Premier League. Over time, it's been the inescapable controversies, the lack of investment that has impacted performance in the Champions League. And this has forced the Italian league to take the back seat. So what does the future hold for the league? One thing is for certain, Serie A is making a gradual comeback. Financially, an internal document revealed the league's attempts to triple international broadcasting revenue by 2030. The sale of Serie A's overseas TV rights for the 2021-24 period secured the league around 670 million euros, a ninth of the sum earned by the Premier League. To further its international appeal, Serie A has opened offices in New York and plans on expanding to London and Abu Dhabi. The league's CEO sees international broadcasting revenue increasing from 670 million euros to 1.1 billion in 2024-27 cycle, and to a further 1.9 billion in the 2027-2030 cycle. On the domestic level, Serie A's present TV deal expires in 2024 and garnered the league 2.9 billion, with a minor increase expected for the 24-27 cycle to 3.2 billion, and a further increase to 3.4 billion for the 2027-2030 period. Amongst the teams on the field, after years of staying away from foreign investment, in 2021, Serie A had 7 of 20 teams controlled by international owners. AC Milan's new owner Jerry Cardinale revealed their 5-year search to purchase a football club with over 200 clubs interviewed culminated in the purchase of AC Milan. And then there's the sale of Palermo FC to City Football Group, overnight turning the Rosanero into one of the richest clubs in Italy. On the field, following a 9-year dominance from Juventus, both Milan clubs have made a comeback, winning Serie A titles in consecutive years. The re-emergence of Napoli at the top, top quality coaches in the league have made Serie A one of the most competitive amongst the top 5 leagues. Betting conglomerates find it hardest to predict a title winner in the Italian league more so than any other top 5 European competitions. The future does look bright, but what else can Serie A do to take the next step in world football? The big Italian teams should embrace football technology, and the league should incorporate data analytics to gain a competitive edge. Germany's Borussia Dortmund have used data to improve training and player performance. Some have also suggested a reduction of Serie A from 20 teams to 18 teams, a move I personally find appealing. So the 2003-04 season was the last time the league saw 18 teams compete, a system that saw 4 teams relegated and 4 sides promoted from Serie B. Rise in TV revenues is what brought about the expansion to 20 teams. More match for more cash, essentially. Serie A executives believe that less matches means less money from TV companies, and so they always voted against reducing the league to 18 teams. What many of those with power in the league failed to grasp is that less is often more, and more matches won't guarantee you more quality. People simply aren't turning to watch Spezia or Cremonese play, and in the end it hurts the appeal of Serie A on the international market. With 18 teams, you see higher quality up and down the league. The points difference separating the final European qualification spot and the first relegation spot was so slim during the early 90s that it made for a very exciting season. When every match counts and the league becomes more exciting, pulling new viewers becomes easier. And really, Serie A won't be a leader in this decision because France's Ligue 1 already decided to reduce their team from 2023-24 season onwards. Serie A sides have significant brand equity, but lack management, lack innovation. But this underperformance likely makes Italian sides a lucrative option for conventional American investors, who are unlikely to splash $100 million into the transfer mercato, but instead improve the team's financial portfolio, finding different ways to increase revenue and eventually diverting it onto the pitch through improved stadiums and higher profile player purchases. As Jerry Cardinal said, AC Milan is a sleeping giant and it's under monetized, and it was also about Serie A and what we think the possibilities are for that as a league. Look, the decline of Serie A has seen it all, from superstar players lifting Ballon d'Ors and Champions League titles culminating into bankruptcies and controversies. As James Horncastle put it, the league has a culture where the same sporting directors move from club to club, appoint a coach they've worked with in the past, and sign some players they've worked with before. The league's future is in the league's control. As mentioned before, Serie A's downfall was mostly of its own creation, and the possibility of a revival is no different. Improving revenues, renovating stadiums, building on youth and their academies will not only help keep the brand of Italian football, but it will also ensure that there is a strong foundation for the future. And if implemented right, the new Chiesa, the next Champions League trophy, might be right around the corner. If you like this kind of content and you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and, of course, like this video.